Hi, everybody. This is Bertrudor. What is happening?
Yes, this is what is happening.
This is the Super Hexagon finale.
Yes.
We're,
Uh,
we're, I,
we're gonna get 5 seconds is gonna be our high score on this.
I think my brain just melted.
Yeah.
Okay, no, we're fine. So yeah, we're split screen. Something split screen. My video, his video at the same time. Do it now
Yeah.
or
I don't
fail
know.
at life.
I think 6 seconds is the farthest I've ever gotten in this mode.
Well, I just got 4 seconds. I'm pretty pleased with
You're
that.
you're better at this game than me, you
Okay.
savant.
So this time, the last topic for the Super Hexagon time video.
My mouse won't get off my screen. Yes.
Our all-time favorite video games.
Oh man.
Yeah, this is gonna
I
be a hard
guess
one for you.
I don't know if we could maybe do this per genre or per console or per genre per console or
Well,
something. I don't know.
that's why I think it's gonna be really hard for you to do, because how do you even compare?
Okay,
Well,
well, do we want to do favorite game of all time?
well,
Period.
if I was pressed, I would pick for my favorite game, Portal, the original Portal,
Okay, the
not
one
Portal
that
2.
the
I
one that
really like Portal
Avanturia's
2.
still LPing.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and it's so much fun watching because I love that game. Um,
People need to remind us to do it. Say stuff in the
I,
comments.
I, uh,
Recordings.
I acknowledge that Portal 2 is probably the better game, but
Hmm.
I prefer the original because the original, sometimes I would get stuck on the puzzles, whereas in Portal 2, wow, it's spinning too fast. In Portal 2, the only time I ever got stuck, the only times, multiple, was when it was in a wide open area and I
Trying to
couldn't
figure out
figure
where
out
to
where I
go
was
next.
trying to go.
Yeah.
And that's not fun for me.
Well, there's a
And
series. Oh, go ahead.
I know that they were trying in that game to make it feel like a bigger world, like more open-ended, but I don't like that in video games personally.
Uh huh. The There's a series online that the PAX guys do. PAX
Uh,
Penny Arcade
yeah.
called Extra Credit, and they talk about that in a game, like how much you should make people feel like they're figuring out where they're going without actually uh, making it too hard. It's hard to say. Like they make landmarks more obvious and some areas duller, and so people are just strung along down basically a path, but they
Mm,
feel like it's more open world. And maybe it wasn't that clear in Portal 2. Maybe that wasn't done as well in Portal 2.
yeah, or
Well, Portal
yeah,
1, it was just elevator next room, elevator next room.
yeah, and I like that.
Yeah, it's a puzzle game.
Just
Portal
take me
2
to
is
the
more
next.
about exploration with a heavy dose of
Yeah, yeah. I just want to go to the
puzzling.
next puzzle.
Hmm.
But even the
It's
room
like
after
Bubble
room,
Bobble.
yeah. Well, it's like blocks that matter.
Hmm. But it's
Okay.
presented in a world style rather than a level select screen.
Yeah, and it always felt good going from
But
chamber to chamber in Portal.
but if you think about it logically, the way that place was built, there had to have been like 60 something elevator shafts in the most illogical places
Yeah.
that only served the purpose of going from one level
From
to the
chamber.
next.
Yep.
But the elevator was always lowering or ascending, so maybe at some point in the game you did actually use the same elevator more than once. And it was just, I don't know. It's interesting to think meta like that. Think outside of the box. Portal was very
I
a
keep
box.
I keep crashing into basically the second wall.
Yeah, same here. I think I'm getting to like 2 seconds and that's it. 2.5 seconds.
So I love puzzle games,
Yeah,
and
I like puzzle games.
it's a really original, challenging puzzle game with so much personality.
Uh-huh.
And the clever things, the designers were so clever
Hmm.
because there's one chamber that the original design idea was that you would have a cube, because in the previous chambers you were using these cubes all the time, but you'd pick it up, you'd put it on a button, and you'd walk away.
Hmm.
And they wanted to design a chamber where you carried the cube with you throughout the chamber,
Right.
constantly used it. And their playtesting showed that their players were trained to leave it behind.
Right.
and they didn't carry it with them, and so they put a heart on it and had GLaDOS talk about it.
Mm-hmm. And then it became the
And
companion
suddenly
cube.
everybody loved it. And I mean, it's an icon of video games now.
Right. Well, it's even part of the mythos of the game too. If you read the comics, which I haven't, but I know a little bit about them. They talk about how the cubes in the conspiracy theories of the game, how the cubes are potentially previous test subjects,
Oh,
and
really?
that you're actually incinerating a previous test subject when you throw them into the incinerator. Spoilers, by the way.
I believe it. Okay.
Yeah, that's why if you listen to GLaDOS, she refers to the companion cube as them or he or she or something rather than it. She never calls it it. So it's just an interesting conspiracy theory. I think Ego Raptor may have done a video like that, or not, or the Did You Know Gaming guys. I think they might have talked about that.
Okay.
But yeah, Portal. I've never beaten Portal because my wife is playing an LP of it, and the way the game saves, it just saves by date and time, so there's not individual save slots.
Right.
So I didn't want to confuse our save points in the game and mess up her recording, so I was just letting her play through the game before I play it. And so, as a result, I've only played about 5 or 6 levels into the game.
It's a great game. First time I played it was with my friend Smitty.
Mm-hmm.
We would trade off the controller every chamber.
Mm-hmm.
I would solve one and pass the controller to him, and he would solve them. You know, like LP style. I mean,
Right.
I've tried to emulate that with my LPs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, pass the LP. Did we do that in one series?
Yep, exactly.
What game did we do that in, or did we do
Mario World.
Mario, oh yeah, no backtracking and no item farming.
Yeah. Okay, your favorite game, go.
Okay, well, I will preface my favorite game by saying I know this game has flaws, and I know it isn't the best game ever made, but the nostalgia level for this game, it's the highest for me. So it's my favorite game because of nostalgia, not because of necessarily the greatest gameplay of all time. Secret of Mana
Yeah.
is definitely my favorite game. You can go back in the past on my channel and see that I've even beaten the game in Japanese, not being able to read a single word, because I've played the game so many times that I don't have to know what the dialogue is in order to progress. I know the sequence of events that well. The first time I played it through in Japanese, I got stuck one time, and I had to look, and it turned out I hadn't talked to one character a second time. And that was the reason I got stuck. It wasn't because I didn't know where to go. It's because you were supposed to talk to that one character 2 times before the event took place. But yeah, the nostalgia level, the whole sequence of events that led up to having that game. I had a subscription to Nintendo Power. I started with issue number 50, which was Link's Awakening in 1993. I think it was like January 93. Link's Awakening was the cover. And then I got issue number 51, which was, I think, Super Mario All-Stars. And then 52 was Mortal Kombat or something. And issue number 53 had Secret of Mana. It was 53 or 54. Had Secret of Mana on the cover. And I said, what is this spectacular looking game? But I loved the way it looked. I don't know why I did. But because of Nintendo Power, I really, really, really wanted the game. But the game was like $70 new. I mean, Super Nintendo cartridges were extremely expensive when it came to RPGs. But we didn't have enough money for it. We had a console, we had Mario, Turtles in Time, Street Fighter, and we rented my story games after that. But one Christmas came around and they bought the game for us. My parents bought the game for us. And I went through such a big deal of opening up the package really nice, making sure I didn't crease the edges or fold the cardboard. I read the entire instruction manual before I even put the game into to the system. And I savored it a lot. So I have a very, very fond memories of Secret of Mana on the Super Nintendo. And my sister, she's never beaten the game to this day, but it's her favorite video game soundtrack other than Donkey Kong Country. She's not even a gamer, but she loves the Secret of Mana soundtrack. And she's still, I think even her ringtone is the regular overworld music in that game. So yeah, Secret of Mana, awesome game. Not the best game ever made. It started the popularity of that kind of game, I think, because The Legend of Zelda, it's that kind of game, but it has an RPG element to it.
Hmm.
But I think it really started the hack and slash genre's popularity in America. I don't even think Diablo would have come out in America had Secret of Mana not become as popular as it did.
Yeah, well, and so many people will talk. I've actually never played the game, but a lot of people are really nostalgic for it.
Hmm. Yeah, I would like to see an unbiased blind LP of that game from a
Well,
modern viewpoint.
I did watch a full LP of it, but it was all in Japanese. So if I were to LP it, it would be a very different experience than watching it was.
Right. Yeah, I tried to narrate the story as best I could, just from memory, and I think for the most part, I got it. I mean, I made it a little funnier. I made a lot of the stuff in the game. It's not the funniest game ever. There's things in the game you can just assume that they were meant to be funny. Some of the character interactions, but as a whole, it's a pretty somber game. I mean, it's basically a post-apocalyptic game. Somebody's trying to end the world, like in all those RPGs, and it's up to you to stop it. So
Yep.
you have to have a little bit of humor in that kind of a setting, or it's just going to be too somber. Like the Borderlands games, they take that depressing post-apocalyptic setting, and they add all of that carefree, silly humor to it, and it makes the game much more fun, making the best out of the worst situation. So yeah, that's the way I play the game. I make it funny when I'm playing it. So yeah, I guess that's my favorite action RPG as well.
Yeah, I have a whole list of games here that I could talk about. We're just not going to have time, but I definitely want to mention Tetris.
Yeah.
Because in my opinion, Tetris is the all-time best video game. I mean, you just can't make a better video game than Tetris.
Well, there is one thing I wanted to mention about Tetris, because you've been playing Blocks That Matter, and the two characters that are referenced in that game are the maker of Minecraft and the maker of Tetris.
Yep, I know.
And they were using words that were a reference to Alexei Pajanov's name. You said, I think they said it was Paganovian physics. With the clearing the 8 blocks together, and you were like, whatever that word is. I was like,
No,
it's the last name of the Tetris guy.
I got it immediately.
Oh, okay. It wasn't clear in the LP that you understood that.
Oh yeah, I just make fun of the story in that game.
Yeah, that story is
Dialogue,
so inconsequential.
Yeah.
Superfluous.
Tetris was one. I had older siblings who were amazing at Tetris, so I never really picked it up. And you couldn't, I would play.
I was the older sibling.
I would play like Dr. Mario because it was 2 players, and I would compete against them playing stuff like that. But Tetris, unless you had the Tengen copy,
yeah, it was
you
one
couldn't play
player
it
on the NES. Yeah.
Yep.
Or you had 2 Game Boys and a link cable and 2 copies of the game.
Yep, which we didn't.
Yeah.
But Tetris, just looking, I'm such a game design nerd. Just looking at Tetris and everything it does, you just can't make a better game.
Yeah. I'm a Tetris purist when it comes to stuff like that, and there's certain versions of Tetris, particularly the Capcom versions of Tetris, that add more than 4 blocks, and that just doesn't seem right to me. It just seems impure.
We used to have a PC version of Tetris that wasn't technically Tetris, it was off-brand Tetris.
Yeah.
And it had multiple play modes, and
So it was
some
like
of them
Block Dropper or something.
yeah, and some of them would drop blocks from 3 to 5.
Yeah, even Tetris 2 did that.
Yeah,
and
Tetris 2
like
was
that.
such a disappointment the first time I played it. But I mean, how do you expand on the original game? That's the point. You can't.
Well, if
you have to
look
come
at
up with
it,
something new.
yeah, he was the creator of Tetris 2, but what was it called? It was called Bomb Bliss internationally. It wasn't even called Tetris. The sequel to Tetris, I think, was Tetris.
Oh, there we go. Sorry.
What was the game called?
Finally had a good run.
Tetris Plus or something. Or
I have no
Tetris
idea.
3. On the Super Nintendo, Tetris 3 was a true sequel to Tetris.
Is that the?
I don't think we ever got a
No,
true sequel to Tetris.
wasn't it that one only recently released in Japan?
Yeah, it was a
I've
Japanese
played it.
release.
I've played lots of Tetris variants, and I still love them.
Yeah, for some reason that
Tetris-
version is fully English translated, but it never made it to America.
Tetris 3 is really fun.
Yeah, it is.
I like
it
it a lot.
has Bombless, which is Tetris 2. Or no, that's Tetris Blast. And then I can't remember what Tetris 2 is called.
I don't know.
Than in the original Tetris. So yeah, there's 3 versions.
Okay, your turn to talk about a new game.
Okay.
We'll probably have enough time for one more.
My favorite puzzle game?
Unless you just want to start rattling off some of your
Okay,
favorite
well,
games.
here's something interesting. I know, since bringing up A Link to the Past,
Uh-huh.
or Zelda in general, I know a lot of people have Zelda as their top game, but I didn't get into the Zelda series until my mid-20s when I decided I started playing a lot of Super Nintendo games. I don't even think I owned The Legend of Zelda on Super Nintendo or anything like that. I have them on N64, but I didn't start getting into them until probably 23 or 24 when I started getting back into Super Nintendo games. And I decided I'm going to sit down and I'm going to play A Link to the Past. I've never beaten it. It's always compared to Secret of Mana. And it didn't interest me. I'd played the first one on the Nintendo and the second one, and I didn't like either of them that much. They were just okay, well-made games that I wasn't interested in beating. But I finally sat down and played through Zelda 3, The Link to the Past, and when I finally beat it on the final screen with the Triforce lifting up into the air, it instantly jumped up into my top 10 list of games.
Oh, really?
The end game was just as good as the beginning, and there's so many games that fall short in the middle and never quite recover. But that game was good from beginning to end. The pacing was perfect, and the music, though I don't like it outside of the game, when I'm playing the game, it is the perfect music for that game. There's no other music they could be playing to make that game more enjoyable at the time.
Yep. I think I've never been really a big Zelda fan, and I think the reason is because I loved Metroid.
Mm-hmm.
I decided that
I beat
recently.
Metroid shortly after I beat Zelda, and then Metroid jumped up into my top 10.
Oh, Metroid's so good.
And then I was like,
But you're talking about
Metroid
Super
3.
Metroid,
Yeah, Super
right?
Metroid. Yeah, I don't like
Yeah.
Metroid.
Yeah, I love Metroid. I'll tell my Metroid story when I LP Metroid for you.
Okay. Spoilers!
Yeah,
NES timeline.
that may be happening.
It will happen.
There's one more game I want to mention. Myst.
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 Oh, man.
Very, very much defined or helped to shape who I became as a gamer.
Wow.
Myst was so important to my development as a gamer. I took that game so seriously. And then when Riven came out, we bought a new computer so I could play Riven.
I actually have a Myst story. Do you have a Myst story?
No.
I didn't
it's
play
just-
Myst until after I got married. So
Oh,
it's
really?
been within the last 5 years.
Well, I was really young when I was playing. It was too hard for me, especially Riven. Riven was impossible. I played that game for years before I finally beat it.
I've never played Riven.
But I am Tommy Girl LP'd Myst and Riven and the third one, which is Exile. And I could not watch the first two because those games were so important to me. I couldn't watch somebody else play them.
Oh, wow.
It was so personal that it was like an insult seeing somebody else. But then I watched her play Exile, and that was fantastic. I loved watching that.
Yeah, Tommy Girl's pretty entertaining.
Because I didn't play Exile until I had a job and just bought a copy because I wanted one.
Okay, well, let me give my Myst story, and then we'll call that a day. All right.
Yeah.
I had a friend who he had a lot of DVDs that people had left at his house, and I was like, oh well. He said, just borrow them. I don't care. Just watch them and then give them back. And if I don't want them, I'll sell you to keep them. Whatever. But he just gave me the whole box of DVDs, and in there was a copy of Myst.
Huh.
And so I stuck it in the computer, and I was like, wow, these graphics are really old. And I remember hearing about it. It was the version that just was pictures, the shockwave version of the game.
Yeah. It was revolutionary at the time. It was
Yeah, it
beautiful.
looked great. But me and my wife sat down with it, and I said, all right, I'm going to figure this game out. I know it's a point-and-click type of game, and it's very, very vague with its narrative.
Mhm.
So it took me. I said, all right, well, wife, Avantria, sit down with me and play it. I think it would be something you'd be interested in. So we sat there and tried to figure it out, and it took us about 20 minutes to realize, I guess, no, more like 2 hours to even figure out how to get into the first area, and then much
Wow.
longer than that to realize that the answers to all of the puzzles in the game were in the library.
Yeah.
And that was so cool. So I decided I'm not going to use any kind of player's guide or hint at all in this game.
Nice.
And it took me probably the better part of a week playing an hour or two a day just to figure that out. And she figured out some of the puzzles, and I figured out some of the puzzles. There would have been no way for me to beat that game by myself.
Oh, really?
The way that that game is made, I don't think that way. But I felt like a better gamer after I played that game. It's so well conceived. I loved that you had to make the story come out. The game didn't tell you the story. You were the one that discovered the story. Like in Portal, you find the broken wall panels, you go behind them, and people wrote stuff on the walls. That was the story in Portal, other than the narrative of Gladys.
Yeah.
I loved that there was no narrative other than what you found in the game. And so, yeah, that's my Myst story. Awesome game, but I had no previous experience with it until I was in my mid-20s, about 4 years ago, I guess, was when I first played it.
Well, when I first beat the game, I had a brother who was playing it at the same time I was, a sister who was playing it at the same time I was, and we would find secrets and swap them with each other.
Mm-hmm.
But the first time I beat the game, none of us had ever found, spoilers, none of us found one of the pages. I could not find one of the pages.
I don't remember if I found everything or not. I think I did.
I eventually found it because I replayed that game so many times because it was just so good.
I was amazed at how huge the game was. I thought it was going to be so tiny, but it was huge. And oddly enough, I've started playing this game in the past, and I will start it proper and finish it. But thinking about it now, it reminds me a lot of Mystic Arc, which never came out in America, but it's a Super Nintendo game that's made by the same team that made the 7th Saga.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very classic style RPG. But yeah, thinking about it, that game does remind me a lot of Myst, but in an RPG format. Myst is more of a point-and-click adventure game.
Interesting.
Never made that connection before.
I can see, I've mentioned 3 games, and all of them are puzzle games, different kinds of puzzle games. You can see what kind of... Well, that's funny. When I took my break from LPing, because I got really sick, and I could just play whatever games I wanted, I played RPGs and fighting games. But it's because you can't find puzzle games like that anymore. I think that's why I love Portal so much.
I don't consider Myst a puzzle game. I mean, it is.
Oh.
There's puzzles to solve, but I think of it as a point-and-click adventure game. I don't. It is a puzzle game, but I just don't label it as a puzzle game.
To me, a point-and-click adventure game is click here to pick up an item and then go find the place to put the item to solve the quote-unquote puzzle. Whereas Myst, you had to slide the bars to get the notes right or whatever. I don't even remember. It's been so long. But I mean, you had to notice things and then put in the answers. So I think it's very much a puzzle game.
Well, it's a logic game.
Ah, yeah.
Puzzle games are logic games.
Okay, we're very over time. Are we done?
Yeah. I have nothing else to say about Myst.
Okay. I got 918.
You got way more than I did. I didn't even reach the score that I made the first time I played this.
What'd you get then?
Like 548 or 518 or something.
Oh, okay.
One of those two.
Man. Okay, outro, go.
This has been Super Hexagon. This was the final episode. We will be doing more of these types of things in the future, so if you have any suggestions of games that don't have much to say, we don't have much to say about when playing them, then that's it. Thanks.
Or, topics you want to hear us talk about. We like to split, everyday world stuff with video games. We'll talk about video games half the time.
Mm-hmm. So, thanks for watching Super Hexagon.
Yay, bye-bye.